Hello everybody, welcome to this session. We have today one match. At the Quarks Foundation we'll organize, of course, the fourth match of this the Inter-University Law Debate Tournament. Now it is even the second match out of four for this quarterfinals. My name is Aurélien Orange, and today with my colleague P.Sorbonne we will be administering this match between two teams who got qualified to the quarterfinals from the eighth finals. So these teams are Paris 1 Panthéon-Sorbonne University in Paris, in France, and the Hague University of Applied Science in the Netherlands. Today both teams actually are available and ready for the match. What we'll do, of course, is to give them the floor, and then we'll proceed with the allocation of the position, and then the match will start. Finished with as well some feedback and comments after the match. So welcome to the students of this match, the quarter finalists. I would like to give the floor now to Miss Varshala to introduce herself. So could you open your camera? Yes.
Good morning. My name is Emily Varshala. I'm a part of the Hague University of Applied Sciences team, and I'm a second year international and European law student currently. And I'm really looking forward to today's match. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Miss Marianne Breton in Paris.
Yes, hello everyone. I'm Marianne Breton. I'm studying law and history of arts at Panthéon-Sorbonne. And nice to meet you all, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Mr. Ahmed Amer Nabil Darwish.
Hello, my name is Ahmed Darwish. I'm a second year law student here at The Hague, and I look forward to a fruitful debate.
Thank you very much. Miss Nelia Faure in Paris.
Good morning, I'm Nelia Faure. I'm a third year student in law and art history at the Sorbonne University.
Thank you very much. Mr. Yaroslav Zaitsev.
Good morning, my name is Yaroslav Zaitsev. I'm a second year student at the Hague University of Applied Sciences, and I'd like to congratulate our opponents making it this far in the tournament. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mademoiselle Camille Masson in Paris.
Hello, I'm a third year student in a double degree of law and art history at the Sorbonne University.
Thank you. So we have all the team members present for this match, 3 for each team. So we sent them a topic 10 days ago. The topic of this match was international economic and trade organizations have the obligation to provide financial support to all signatory states in times of their financial crisis, regardless of their debt status. So that was the topic that was sent to both teams. So they spent 10 days preparing for this match. Both sides obviously. And today we'll be now looking at which position they will have during the match. So I will share my screen in few seconds, so you can see as well in WebEx what on YouTube they will see, meaning that the algorithm to define the positions for this match. So now you should see indeed the wheel spinning, and on the other side you have two possibilities for each team. So it means to be in favor or to be against the motion. So we just click now in the center of this wheel, and then we'll know which position each team will get. So for this match, Paris will be in favor. So and of course the Hague will be against. So to clarify, Paris 1 Panthéon-Sorbonne University will defend the position that international economic and trade organizations have the obligation to provide financial support to all signatory states in times of their financial crisis, regardless of their debt status. On the other side, the Hague University of Applied Science will defend the position that international economic and trade organizations do not have the obligation to provide financial support to all signatory states in times of their financial crisis, regardless of their debt status. So these are the positions. Now, yes, you will have 5 minutes, and this is Paris will start with opening statement of 4 minutes after the 5 minutes of preparation for both teams. Good luck.
Thank you, everyone. The time is up.
Yes.
So we get into the match.
So now we'll start with the first opening statement, which will be by Paris debate team. So I would like to give the floor to the team from Paris for the opening statement. You have 4 minutes.
Do you hear me?
Yes.
Dear members of the jury, the opposite team, with my colleagues, we stand affirmative on the resolutions that international economic and trade organizations have the obligation to provide financial support to all signatory states in times of the financial crisis, regardless of the debt status. Historically speaking, international trade was always important. In the 14th century, voyages of discovery were largely motivated by trade prospects. After World War I, the warring nations of Europe began a new chapter of peace and prosperity by concluding a peace treaty. After that, economic exchange were always important. The world economy has undergone tremendous change during the past decade and has come a long way since World War II by establishing the World Trade Organization. We witnessed revolution in communication technologies and reduction in risk because of insurance and international trade laws. To avoid any confusion, international economics deals basically with those economic principles which govern the exchange of goods and services between sovereign nations, more accurately between the residents, and with special policy problems which arise in view of this. This gain from pure exchange can be substantially increased when trade makes it possible to reallocate productive resources on the basis of comparative advantage. In the present-day world, economic interdependence among nations is very strong, particularly in matters of macroeconomic policy. For example, if US national income grows, its trading partner may benefit from US citizens' increased imports. A trade association is an organization or group that is funded by businesses in a particular industry. The purpose of a trade association is to set laws and provide extensive knowledge to companies within the industry. All of the businesses work together to help solve problems and come up with solutions to industry-related issues. Trade associations are not-profit organizations whose primary purpose is to provide different learning tools for businesses in a particular industry. The World Trade Organization is the only global international organization dealing with the rules of trade between nations. The World Trade Organization is run by its member governments. All major decisions are made by the membership as a whole, either by ministers or by the ambassadors or delegates. The World Trade Organization derives most of the income from its annual budget from contribution by its members. Indeed, the severe contraction of world trade volume during the recent global crisis, the steepest since the Great Depression, was a major blow to the global economy and to countries. In this case, we believe that international economic and trade organizations have the obligation to provide financial support to all signatory states in time of the financial crisis, regardless of the debt status. Their main function is to ensure that trade flows as smoothly, predictably, and freely as possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So it is time as well for the opening statement by the Hague University of Applied Science. So the Hague team, you have 4 minutes.
Thank you. Good morning. On behalf of the Hague University of Applied Sciences, we'll be arguing against the statement that international economic and trade organizations have the obligation to provide financial support to all signatory states in times of their financial crisis, regardless of their debt status. We're going to substantiate our position by expanding on the following points. Firstly, there is no obligation to provide financial support, as all international organizations have conditions and assessment for approval. Secondly, active financial support is often not the most beneficial way to assess indebted states in a crisis. Thirdly, these international organizations are intergovernmental, and there cannot be an obligation, as state sovereignty allows independent voting. To come back to the first point, there is no obligation to provide financial support, as all international organizations have conditions and assessment for approval. When providing financial support, organizations such as the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank have the discretion to evaluate and deny providing it, and with good reason. Countries with debt levels that the IMF deems unsustainable are barred from taking out these loans. To provide a concrete example, the IMF has recently rejected Venezuela's request for an emergency $5 billion loan to fight the new coronavirus, as their debt status was too grave. Venezuela, which has defaulted more than 65 billion in bonds and owes billions more to Russia and China, would not be a fit candidate for financial support, resulting in more debt for the country. Therefore, there is no obligation by the organization and no inherent right of the signatory state to financial support. Secondly, active financial support is often not the most beneficial way to assess indebted states in a crisis. As previously mentioned, states in need of financial support usually carry substantial debt, even without the added burden of additional funds that must be reimbursed. Instead of active financial support, financial help can also be provided passively by allowing the countries to use money earmarked for paying off its debts to relocate the funds to cope with the crisis. As an example, it is known that the IMF policy prescriptions provide uniform remedies that are not adequately tailored to each country's unique circumstances. These standards actually reduce economic growth and deepen and prolong financial crises, creating hardships to the signatory states' citizens long-term. Nobel Prize-winning economist Joseph Stiglitz stated that the IMF implements failed development policies in some of the world's poorest countries. He argues that the fund's actions are counterproductive rather, and of short-term value while leaving long-term consequences. Thirdly, these international organizations are intergovernmental. There cannot be an obligation, as state sovereignty allows independent voting. Since these international organizations do not fall within the realms of supranational powers, it cannot be assumed that there is an obligation to fulfill in the present case. To provide an example, the OECD imposes no obligation to provide assistance, since the decisions are taken by vote, and countries that abstain may choose not to participate in specific endeavors. To reaffirm this, in the words of the World Bank, the bank is run like a giant cooperative, where its members are shareholders. In conclusion, international economic and trade organizations don't have an obligation to provide financial support to all signatory states in a financial crisis, regardless of their debt status. Providing uniform financial support is the quickest way to deepen the cracks in the facade of an indebted state's crumbling economy. In the words of George Bernard Shaw, the surest way to ruin a man who doesn't know how to handle money is give him some. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So now we move to the first round of rebuttals. So I would like to give the floor to the team from Paris. You have 2 minutes.
Yes. So, well, we
Miss Breton?
We must provide
Miss Breton? Miss Breton, we'll ask you to restart. Yes, can you hear me now, Miss Breton? Yes, we'll ask Miss Breton to restart, of course. Miss Breton, yeah, you don't have your camera on, of course, but could you maybe reconnect? Because, yeah, even if you speak, it will not be possible, even cameras off. So it would be good that
I believe
yes.
she's reconnecting right now.
Okay. So yes, so we'll wait a bit for the first rebuttal to start again. So it can happen.
Well, she's trying to reconnect, but maybe I will do the first rebuttal.
Are you sure?
Yes, because maybe I think she has problem of a connection in her house.
Okay, but
So maybe it will be easier.
okay.
I don't know.
So if you are fine as a team, yeah, it's up to you to do the first rebuttal. You, I mean, individually. I see Miss Breton is now
Okay.
back. Miss Breton, can you hear us well?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay, nice. Wait. Okay. So,
You can.
so yeah, we believe that we must support, we must provide financial support to all signatory states, regardless of their debt status. As the main role of international organization is to provide, well, financial support to ensure economic flow, as it is providing support is a part of their reason to be, actually, as their goal is to help developing countries to achieve economic security and establishing norms regarding how countries make trade agreements and resolve. So if a country is stuck in a
Yeah, we don't hear you at this moment.
Ms. Platon, sorry to interrupt. Your audio cut off. We would ask you to restart, and you may keep your camera off to make it easier for your internet to load properly. Whenever you're ready.
Yeah, please keep your camera off. Turn off your camera.
do I have to restart?
Yes, you can restart. Yeah.
Yes.
So yes, so we believe that we must provide financial support to all signatory states, regardless of their debt status. So as one of the main goal of international organization, especially the IMF, is to provide financial support to ensure economic flow. Well, so the goal is to help developing countries to achieve economic security and establishing norms regarding how countries could make trade agreements and resolve. And logically, if a country has to face a financial crisis, it's a part of their very role to help them in such a way. We can think of the example of Brexit, in which such geopolitical changes have led the World Trade Organization's negotiators to, well, informally discuss these changes. Also, we may argue that the support of clearly indebted countries well, still serves the interest of the organizations, as we may think that the more its members are economically attractive, the more the organization's weight is increased. And well, we may think of the really famous example of Greece in 2011. So even though Greece's debt was up to 107%, by such a support, even though the country is indebted. So thank you.
Thank you very much. So, so of course, when there was a cut, we put on pause the timer. So now I would like to give the floor as well for the first rebuttal to the Hague University of Applied Science. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. I'd like to thank you for your arguments, and technical difficulties happen to everyone, so don't worry about that. So one of the first things that the team mentioned in their speech was that trade was very important, and historically it was extremely important, and it's what our society is built on today, and that is true. However, that is because trade was beneficial. Trade started because it started and endured because it was beneficial for both parties. If it wasn't, it would be called a charity. And this was put best by the IMF's managing director when he said that the IMF does not deal in with charity or is not in the charity business. When they were faced with explaining the Pakistan deal and uh, why they did not allow Pakistan's debt to be forgiven, but instead made them more indebted. The idea is that it does not matter whether or not a country needs a specific financial support. What matters is whether that financial support is going to help them to reach where they need to go. Like you said in your speech, the goal is to have economic flow, and that is true. But giving countries more debt is not the way to do so. There, um, there are other ways of doing so, and you mentioned one in your speech, specifically to provide knowledge, as you said, and technical assistance. These are better ways to help countries, and they do not include loaning them money, because loaning them money only gives them more debt. It's not the way to go. Loans also increase debt, but they at the same time they allow that country to have to sacrifice some of its political strategy, as we've seen before. Multiple research papers show that the IMF is a very political organization, and that, for example, when countries are in the Security Council of the UN, they tend to get more funding. Or, for example, when they're allies to the US, they get more funding as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So now we move to the second round of rebuttals. I would like to give the floor back to the team from Paris. You have 2 minutes.
Okay, can you hear me well?
Yes.
The other team mentioned that the fact that we provide the financial support will sacrifice political policies, and that may be true. And we believe that financial support will help the country that's needed, because it will facilitate a gradual adjustment of countries. Because in fact, the purpose of IMF financing is to provide countries with sufficient flexibility to enable them to implement adjustment policies in an orderly manner, and will help restore conditions to be in a stable economy and sustainable growth. And so, well, the measures to be taken will depend on the circumstances of each country. And yes, there is conditions that have to be fulfilled. But for example, a country facing large capital outflows may need to address the root causes of loss of investor confidence. And we can take the example of South Korea and Indonesia, because the IMF and the governments of South Korea and Indonesia to guarantee the debt of the private corporations and banks in their countries that are borrowed internationally, and without, in fact, in this case, the IMF acting as a collective bargaining agent for the foreign banks, this would probably not have happened. So, well, the help of the IMF financing was really helpful for the countries.
Thank you very much. So now I'll give the floor to the team of The Hague. For your second rebuttals, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. So, as the opposition mentioned, there are many benefits to providing financial support. However, the team has failed to prove that this is an obligation. The topic of this debate is whether or not the international economic and trade organizations have an obligation, and there's nothing to prove that they do have an obligation. In fact, the team themselves mentioned that it is in fact conditional. The fact that it is conditional implies that it is not an obligation. They can choose to, they can decide not to give countries financial support even if they're in crises. The team also gave a really great example about South Korea and how South Korea was helped by the IMF to reach the to become the economic superpower that they are now. However, that is one of many examples. We've seen how the IMF has miserably failed in Africa, how the HIPC initiative has not worked at all, and how it's faced so much criticism due to the fact that it only increases debt and it only keeps poor countries lower. And the fact that South Korea went up only goes back to prove our point about politicization. South Korea was only given those loans because it's a US strategic ally to balance with North Korea. It's where the US's bases are. And so the US, which is one of the biggest shareholders in the IMF, can of course use its voting rights to then allow them certain loans that wouldn't be available to, let's say, Kenya, to, let's say, Mali. These types of politicization, that shows that the IMF, that international trade organizations are not in the charity business. They are only there when it is beneficial. States do not give money away. States loan money, they lend money, and they expect it to be returned. So giving countries that are deeply indebted money, you can't expect a return on that investment. And so countries are not interested. International trade and economic organizations are not interested. And so it will never be an obligation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So now we move to the conclusions. So we'll start with the conclusion given by the team from Paris. You have 2 minutes.
Yes. So to conclude, we still think that indebted countries facing a crisis should benefit from support from the organizations they belong to. And this financial support allow indebted developing countries to overcome the said crisis. And it is a part of the role of the organization. And simultaneously, the support is a opportunity for the country to improve its crisis mechanisms under the supervision of the international organizations. So the financial support is essential as indebted countries facing crisis cannot rely on their own attractivity, and given that economic difficulties drive away potential foreign direct investments. So organizations also benefit from their own support, as not providing support would lead the crisis to worsen, and thus turning the member of the organization into more of a burden. So we stand positive on the resolutions that international economic and trade organizations have the obligation to provide financial support to all signatory states in time of their financial crisis regarding of their debt status. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So now it is time as well for the conclusion by the team from the Hague University. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Honorable judges and their counterparts, the arguments presented by the opposing team most certainly merit thorough consideration. Nevertheless, to arrive at the right conclusion, the following should be borne in mind. The status of a signatory state does not secure financial aid immediately after the request to receive it. The approval of the financial aid is contingent on the fulfillment of certain conditions and assessments. The constraint of the obligation to provide support with the non-observance of these factors may lead to arbitrary allocation of funds or even to a destabilization of an organization as a whole. Direct injections of capital into the economy of the indebted state is only one of multiple forms of assistance that can be provided. Active financial support often proves to not be nearly as effective as other methods of relieving financial strain, such as, for example, debt swaps or even renegotiation of tariffs. The states that are members to international organizations of economic and trade nature cannot be compelled to provide support to signatory states. These organizations, they are intergovernmental, and if Matters such as providing financial support were not submitted to vote and were distinguished as an obligation. This would just result in an infringement on state sovereignty of the member states. There's no denying of the need to provide support to the necessitous states. However, an act of doing so due to an obligation is nothing short of receiving this benefits through coercion. Thank you very much for your attention and for organizing the debate.
Thank you very much. So now we are done with this match, so it means from now you are not anymore under evaluation by the judge. So from now, of course, we can see what are your impressions, your comments on this match, your own performance as well. So I would like to give the floor first to Miss Varshala. What did you think about this match, your team, and the other team as well?
Yeah, well, first of all, of course, I would like to thank the opposition for the debate. I think it was a great debate considering also the arguments that were posed by both sides, and the way that the rebuttals commenced as well was quite productive, in my opinion, to debate on this topic in particular. Of course, technical difficulties are rather unfortunate, but I'm sure we all have understanding for that. So I wouldn't worry too much on the opposing team, and I'm sorry that you had to go through that as well. But yes, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So now, Miss Breton, Marianne Breton.
Yes, well, thank you for the opposition as well. It was a pretty interesting debate, and I think deeply rooted in international relations. So it was pretty exciting and interesting to walk upon and to debate on. So yeah, thank you for this, and thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Ahmed Amer Nabil Darwish.
Yes, I agree. The debate was very topical, and I believe that the other team spoke very well. And yeah, regarding the technical issues, I don't know if you were in the meeting before, but I also had technical issues in the beginning. So I know that that could cause some anxiety, but I just want to tell you that it's fine because I was able to listen to most of the rebuttals, and we were able to have an efficient debate. So don't worry about that at all. It was a good debate, and yeah, it was a good experience. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Miss Nelia Faure.
She doesn't have any connection because she's not in France, so she just left the meeting.
Yeah, okay, no problem. Mr. Zaitsev.
Yeah, I guess we could all agree that the topic of this debate is of constant relevance. We really enjoyed the debate, and I hope that the opponents do not really fret that much about the technical difficulties. You still managed to get your points across quite well, and you performed quite well too. So thank you for that.
Thank you very much. And Miss Camille Masson.
Well, I'd like to thank the other team, of course. And yeah, as a law student, I think it was more like an economic topic, but it was really interesting to do the research because we never really did economy in our studies. So yeah.
Thank you. So yes, so congratulations to both teams. First of all, you did a very good job. So yes, it's a let's say a topic which is between, let's say, law and economics, because we have as well international trade law sometime in the universities, and of course those organizations, yeah, we have to tell what they do. They are very different from those, of course, who are in more on the question of democracy, statehood, sovereignty, etc. But yes, thank you very much concerning this work you have done during the 10 days. Yeah, the judge, of course, will watch the match in order to determine which team will move to the semi-finals. So one thing important, of course, that you understood already, but because it's the tournament itself, when you get qualified to the semi-final, you have automatically two matches. So you have the semi-final match, and you have the match which comes after, which could be either the final, either the match for the third place. So it means that it is possible as well that, yeah, we'll inform you a bit more about these two later stage at the same time, not just one after one. Simply because, yeah, then you will get more information, you will be as well well prepared on this aspect, and of course you can advertise to your network the fact that you are arriving at this stage, and then they can support you or watch, etc. So it's one element. So yes, we'll have as well one last networking event, which will be this time with all the teams of both competitions. So it means that all the teams who have participated to either the concours, either to the tournament. So just for a little story, this year there was a team which is not anymore in the competition, wanted to participate to both. So one team actually tried, but finally decided to not enter this very, I would say, investing time of competing in two competitions at the same time. But yes, so this time as well you will be able to meet those students who are in the other competition who understand as well English. So it will be of course possible to switch and for them to English or to continue to speak French for some other teams. But what I mean is that, yeah, it will be the last one. Then, of course, we'll have obviously the final match. And we hope that obviously you will be able to watch it or to participate simply to see, yeah, how the last 2 or 4 teams in general will be competing. For the rest, yes, congratulations for what you have done. Of course, it's a long weekend. I guess you want to enjoy as well. But I will give the floor to my colleague in case I missed to say something.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you to both teams. You did really well for your execution of your arguments and also working around the technical difficulties. Again, good job to both teams. Well done. Looking forward to results and seeing you, whichever team moves to the semifinals, and hopefully to see both teams in the upcoming networking event. The event will start with a separate agenda for the law debate tournament and separate agenda for the concours. And then there will be a possibility to network in between the 2 competitions. So you can bring any questions or to look out for the teams that you have met in the previous rounds. And of course, towards the end of competition, you might have already seen that some team already received their certificates. The certificates are released as the competition progresses. So you will of course receive yours, and towards the end of competition, there's going to be of course the award for the finalists, the winner, and the best oralists of the final. Bit of a difference from the previous editions, we also have the award for the most watched match of the competition. This includes also the matches that took place in the group phase. And there is also an award for the most favored match of the competition, which is done by voting. In the upcoming newsletter, you will receive the form. You can share with your faculty members, you can share with your friends and family. So it's up to you how to distribute it. And after the final is over, we'll of course also submit and send you the awards for those 2, should you qualify. Right. Again, well done. Good job to both teams, and looking forward to seeing you all again.
So many thanks again, and wish you a good rest of the weekend. So we keep in touch, of course, by email. Thanks again. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
again.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.